Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Apex. Today we're in Imola this weekend.
And what a Grand Prix it was.
What a Grand Prix.
What a Grand Prix.
I think the first thing to say is that the F1 title fight is back on.
I really do think it is. I mean, we have now got 3 cars within 8 seconds of each other in the race. And obviously McLaren hot on the heels of Red Bull.
It's going to be an interesting, I think, second half. Is it second half to the season?
It's not even second half, I think it's 3/4.
Blimey.
What, this is the 7th race, we've got 24.
Oh Christ, yeah.
We've got 3/4, the F1 title battle is on.
Oh, it is on.
F1 is back.
F1 is back, yeah.
But obviously we saw the teams closing up, bringing lots of upgrades and closing up to Red Bull.
Yeah.
And many people have said, obviously, if Red Bull don't bring upgrades and everyone brings upgrades, of course they're going to kind of close up. But Red Bull brought upgrades this race, and McLaren was still on top of them.
Not a good sign for Red Bull, is
Not
it?
a good sign, but if we talk,
yeah.
So obviously, at the start of the weekend, it looked incredibly bleak. And I mean, I even said to my mate, I was like, Red Bull aren't going to win this race, plain and simple, because Ferrari and McLaren were quicker than them. But Max Verstappen's pure talent won in the race. I think it's fair to say.
I think it's fair to say. And I mean, we can't really say that he's not a talented driver, and obviously we do chat a lot about the fact that obviously he's always winning.
Yeah.
But I think it makes it more interesting now that obviously he's achieved everything he wanted to achieve, and now we're kind of seeing that battle with the 3 cars and the 3 teams as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 different teams are both kind of converging on what is the fastest car, and it's great to see. But pole and win looked unlikely at the start of the weekend, and he got them. And I mean, you can see the kind of difference in the drivers now with the teams closing up, with Checo going out in Q2 and then getting, I think, P8 in the race.
Yes.
So, and 60 seconds.
I was going to say that's not very promising at all.
No.
Considering that Red Bull are now being, in the battle with McLaren and Ferrari, to not have that
the rear gunner,
no, because especially with Ferrari, with Sainz and Leclerc, they're both similar pace.
Oh my god, yeah, and with Lando and Oscar as well,
Yeah.
very, very similar pace, and Checo's just off the pace.
Yeah.
And Max is kind of that sole gunner at the front, but he can do it.
He can do it, but also it's not what Red Bull wants.
Absolutely not, and I really do think that apparently there were rumours that kind of Red Bull offered Checo a 1-year contract for next year. He kind of counter-proposed with a 2-year deal, which I don't think he's in the position to counter-propose, but hey-ho, and I think this race is really going to put his seat in jeopardy.
I think so. I agree. I mean, they're just not going to want that. They're going to want something else to really, because obviously with McLaren and Ferrari, they've both got their 2 drivers ahead of their Red Bull second driver.
Yeah, and it's pointless for Red Bull to kind of not have that support, because when the likes of Lando and Leclerc are going to be fighting for wins with Max is going to have no support.
Yeah.
He's going to have no kind of power for the second driver to undercut the drivers to force a pit stop or anything like that. He's on his own, so it's going to be very interesting for the rest of the season, especially if these teams can keep with Red Bull.
Yeah.
But obviously, moving on to Mercedes, they brought upgrades, and there still wasn't really any pace.
Yeah, I mean, we said this last podcast, didn't we? I mean, Mercedes, I don't really know what they're doing. Whatever they're doing it wrong, because they're bringing upgrades, but it's just not improving like the others are.
Not at all. And I mean, there was a quote from Fred Vasseur at the end of the race about the Mercedes upgrades, and I think he kind of said something along the lines of, well, they're only 35 seconds off of the leader now, so they're clearly making improvements in a very sarcastic way, because they have, I mean, we said at 2022 when they're off the pace, let's give them 6 races and they'll be back in with the title fight. It's been 3 years. Like, clearly something is wrong in that team, and whether it's the leadership of Toto or whether it's James Allison or something like that, something needs to change. And the thing that didn't need to change was Lewis leaving the team. So I think there's a bleak future for that team.
I think so, especially like you're saying, there's Lewis leaving and the kind of like who's going to have that seat next season. I really don't know, because who's going to want to have that seat now?
No one wants it. I mean, I would genuinely say that Aston, McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull are both more exciting prospects than Mercedes at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting. And I would also say Audi as well.
Yeah,
obviously with Sauber. So that's kind of the ultimatum that Sainz has got at the moment. Is he going to try and stick it out for Red Bull, or is he going to try and go to Audi? Obviously let's go on to Ferrari. But that is their kind of ultimatum, and he's kind of just disregarded Merc now. So it's going to be really interesting, especially going into 2026.
Yes.
How that kind of team's going to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But obviously with Ferrari, the upgrade definitely works.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were close to the Red Bulls than we've seen previously, and obviously Leclerc on the podium, but that's not unnormal. Like, that's not not normal.
No.
Because we saw him obviously in Miami.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, Sainz obviously he was P4, got pipped by Oscar in the pits, and wasn't able to kind of get that back. But I would say it's a positive weekend for Ferrari, especially with how close they are to the leaders.
Absolutely, and they're both so strong. You know, P3 and P5 is just something that they're going to take away and think, do you know what, that is a good result.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. But if we move on to McLaren, they were again the quickest car this weekend. I mean, both Lando and Oscar were only, I think, 800ths off of pole. Obviously, Oscar got that penalty, bringing him down to P5. Otherwise, it would have been a double podium. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But Lando was came back from 7 seconds behind
Incredible.
to 7/10 within, I think, about 17, 18 laps.
Incredible.
And it shows that McLaren really does have pace.
And we've not seen this for a while.
No. Oh, I think I saw a stat that it's been about 660 days since we've had something like this. And I think every F1 fan is loving it.
Absolutely, and I think everyone's gonna. It just makes it more exciting, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it also says a lot about kind of what everyone was disappointed about the past couple of seasons, because it clearly wasn't Max winning.
Yeah.
Because everyone's loved this race, even though Max won, and it's clearly just the competitiveness.
Well, yeah, because when he's like so far ahead, it's just not worth watching.
No.
You know, the lights go out and Max has won. Whereas now the lights go out and it's like Max has won, but potential, there is potential.
Real
also,
potential.
Everyone is so close too. So.
And especially with kind of qualifying as well, because we saw kind of last year qualifying, even if a car could get ahead of Max, Max would easily pass him. But now, Max ain't passing him.
No.
And it's going to be really kind of interesting, especially with races like Monaco coming up, where it's so quality intensive.
Yes.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So yeah,
it'll be very interesting. I mean, if Lando gets pole in Monaco, wins in Monaco.
Well, I cannot wait. And obviously,
you're going to go feral.
Oh, I really am. And obviously, we've seen the Senna livery for this weekend. Oh my god, it's beautiful.
It is
and that is going to be the car that Lando wins the Monaco Grand Prix in. So yes, I'm very, very excited for Monaco, because it's going to be a really close fight between 3 cars.
It is, and in Monaco, 3 cars.
Oh, I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. But obviously, moving on to Aston Martin. I mean, it wasn't a good weekend.
It wasn't. Strolling the points though.
Strolling the points, which is positive and showing that somewhat the upgrades are working.
Not for Aston Martin.
Not for Aston Martin, and they would have wanted Alonso kind of up there near the podium at least.
Yeah.
And it was basically a test session for him. I mean, he didn't do well in qualifying at all. He qualified last, I think, and started from the pit lane to try and kind of change some setup, and just was running nowhere. He was battling with like Sargent, which is just not where Fernando should be.
No, Aston Fernando,
no.
Absolutely.
So hopefully they'll kind of come back in Monaco. They'll take it back to the factory, kind of work on it. I'm guessing Felipe Drugovich is not going to see the light of day this week and just be in the simulator all day. But I mean, hopefully they can bring it back.
Absolutely.
Because I'd love to see. Obviously, they've brought so many upgrades. I'd love to see Aston Martin in the fight as well. I mean, if we can get like a 4-way, 5-way, it'd be the best season ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, moving on to Alpine. Obviously, not as much pace as in Miami.
No, I mean we had positive things to say in Miami, didn't we?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they weren't as far off the pack as they were in Bahrain or Saudi, let's say. So there is improvements in that respect, but yeah, it definitely
it's not a tractor anymore. It's more a trailer.
Yes, yeah. Let's call it the trailer Alpine for now, and then hopefully it can make it into the Range Rover Defender or whatever. that's actually pulling the trailer. But I mean, obviously we've seen Ocon just outperforming Gasly like he has been for the past season, I'd say. Yeah. So I mean, Gasly really needs to step up his game. Obviously there is rumours that Ocon's going to go to Williams, this, that, and the other. Yeah. So I mean, it's not looking good for that team at the moment. But
it's not. But
hopefully they will pick up the pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll move on to Williams talking about that. I mean.
Just no real pace again.
No
and I mean,
pace.
Albon was very unlucky with his pit stop. Obviously, the tyre didn't go on, so he had to do a whole lap, basically, with half a tyre on, which is classic Williams. Yeah. But obviously, then he came out and there was 0 pace. Yeah. And Sargent was really nowhere. No. So, just not a good...
Not much to say, really, is there?
No.
Racing Bulls, on the other hand.
Yuki with another point. I mean, he's so consistent this year. And he's really kind of, I think, vying him up for that Red Bull seat.
I think so. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't. Taking out Perez from the equation and putting in Yuki, I think he's just a little pocket rocket. He's in that Red Bull, and you wouldn't see him for the light of day. No,
and I mean, I would say for the first time I've seen anyway, Christian went up to Yuki at the start of the race and gave him a thumbs up. Which I don't want to read too much into, but if Christian is starting to like Yuki, I think it could be vying.
Yeah, I mean that's really that's telling, isn't it?
Very telling. And obviously Danny Rick wasn't in the points again. He did have a good quality, I'll give him that, but he wasn't able to keep in the points.
And that's just like, well...
Yeah, it's classic Danny Rick this season, so yeah. But, I mean, moving on to Sauber, it's basically the same as Williams. No real pace, and another kind of poor weekend.
Sauber, I think we've only ever said that.
Yeah, we really have, and I think all of the kind of personnel in that team are just waiting for the Audi takeover in 2026 with the Works engine, and hopefully that team can have some promising...
Absolutely. Yeah, and then they can bring upgrades like other teams hopefully and be fighting for that.
Absolutely, and I think they will be within a couple of years. I think 2028 is kind of the deadline for Audi to kind of start fighting for podiums. I think that is that's where they're targeting. And I mean, it's going to be a long 4 years for Sauber, but I think it will be worth it.
Absolutely, I think so. And finally, we'll move on to Haas. Obviously,
it was a great start for Hülkenberg.
Yes.
Like he went round the outside of Yuki and got into P8, but he then just kind of fell back and then just was outside the points. Annoyingly, obviously with Checo storming up as well.
Yes.
So,
but.
Unfortunate, both out of the points, but again it shows that they do have pace because they're both there, P11, P12, there if anyone DNF'd, which is unfortunate that no one did.
And I think Haas will take that, to be honest.
Absolutely they will. It's just they want promising signs, and that's what they've got.
And that is promising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, so that really rounds off Imola. And obviously we're in Monaco this weekend.
Fingers crossed Charles can have a good weekend as well.
Hopefully,
obviously, the Monaco curse has just hit him every single year. And obviously with Ferrari bringing loads of upgrades, hopefully they will have a good weekend.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
You'll find out soon.
Yes, so thank you very much for watching this episode and see you next time.